perspectives, which has left non-lawyers like us completely bewildered. We don't know which, and I'm sure you know that the first thing I'm talking about is the issue of the National Assembly and the Inspector General of Police, and that's why I invited Chief Robert Clark, SAN, who always obliges me. There's nowhere for him to run.
Definitely, that's true.
He always obliges
me. As far as my Disu is concerned, is the old young small boy I used to know.
So if sometime during the interview I call him Uncle Robbie, please pardon me, because we're all used to calling him Uncle Robbie. Uncle Robbie, how are you, sir?
Well, always my pleasure.
Always a pleasure to come. Yes. Now, let me just go to the meat of what we want to say. Let me start from the meat and then come back, because there are some other issues we will discuss. The problem between the National Assembly and the Inspector General of Police, where the police have consistently invited the Inspector General of Police and he has refused to show up, and remembering, sir, that the original invitation was to discuss the Dino Melaye issue in the first instance and use the opportunity to discuss other security matters. I'm sure you've been following the stories, sir, but I'd like to know what your own perspective is on this issue.
Well, honestly speaking, if I say I've not been following it, in a way, I'll be deceiving myself.
Yeah.
But like any other Nigerian matter that comes in regarding political matter, I just read the headlines. Okay. I don't go into the nitty-gritty. But in this particular case, I think I am in a comfortable position to answer any question you might want to ask me in this matter. Yes, I followed it a bit.
Okay. So what's your perspective? Does the National Assembly have the right to invite the Inspector General? Or rather, let me put it, is he obliged to answer that kind of invitation?
Well, there are two ways to look at the question.
Yes.
We lawyers, we have a basic rule that many of us, we don't follow. If we do follow it, you wouldn't be having as various opinions on a given issue. First, we believe that facts, we must really look at facts, because they are the bedrock upon which our law depends. If you miss on the facts, you will miss on the law. Because a good lawyer will first gather your facts and see what law are applicable to that, bundle of facts you have gathered. So you can see, if you gather somebody who has only fought and they say he stole, and then you have already prepared a charge of stealing, only to discover that the facts only relate. So facts are very sacred to us. Now, what are the facts? As a lawyer, what we see and what we hear and what we read is that the National Assembly, or let's put it precisely, the Senate, seeing at what is happening to one of their so-called, in quote, distinguished senator, being carted away and forcing his way out of a moving truck, even if he says he doesn't want to commit suicide, the act speaks for itself. A man who forcefully removes himself from a moving vehicle, there's a presumption that he wants to kill himself. That's what the Yoruba people will say.
But he claimed he was tear gas, though.
Well, we were not there. So
and do you think, sir, that is possible to tear gas somebody in a moving vehicle in which
all of you are sitting down?
Yes.
There is no distance where you will throw it. If you drop, all of you will be inhaling it. So it doesn't make sense. There is a bit of skepticism in that. But what I want to say is this. Let us have, if those are the facts on the ground, that they want to query the IG on why a distinguished senator should be treated in the way Amana Melayo has been treated, then one look at the position of the law. Does the law allow members of the House to call upon people to come before them and answer questions in relation to their duties ascribed to them by the Constitution. Yes, the Senate has the power, one, when they want to amend a law, an existing law, and they need an input from people who are knowledgeable in that area, they invite them. Look, we are amending a particular law. Look, come and give us your experience. At that stage, there is a force of law attached to that invitation. That force of law is that if you refuse, they may subpoena you. Okay. If you don't come, they may take drastic disciplinary action. Or if they are appropriating the budget and a particular department has brought in an appropriation of say 10 billion, and they look into it and say, oh, there are certain things we don't like here, they can invite officials, especially the minister, because it is not fair to go and invite the director when the minister is there. The same thing, if there is a security problem in the country and they want to be enlightened to know like what is happening in Boko Haram, the militia boys, and the new trend headsmen, well, the question then arises, who is the particular person to invite? That is where, again, the facts. So if the National Assembly only wants to ask about Melaye, and through that fora, take other questions, then they are wrong. But
wrong meaning that they don't have such powers.
No, not that they are misusing that power.
Oh,
the power is there. But the power says, I've told you the areas when they are considering matters. Now, if it is about security, because they are now saying it is not a question of Melaye.
They've shifted the goalposts.
Even if it is that, who is the head of security in Nigeria today outside Mr. President? Is the Minister for Interior, who has under him the DSS, the police, so many security agents. So if you want to know anything about security, the first person you should call is to call the Minister for Interior, who will now bring all his so far security apparatus along with him. So that if you ask me a question about Navy, if you ask me a question about this one, for you to just call one official and ask him to come, I think it is not fair. It is not fair. So I think they are wrong. One, if they had intended only to discuss Melaye, they are far, foul. Like,
but that, you said they're wrong, but does the IGP also have that discretion not to show up?
Let me be honest.
Yes.
Let me be honest. As a civil servant or a public official, you are accountable to somebody.
Yes.
The IGP, Inspector General of Police, is accountable to the Minister for Interior.
No, for Police Affairs.
Who is accountable to the President.
I think there's a Minister for Police Affairs, I think.
Yeah, okay, there's a Police Affairs. And even there's a National Security Council also.
Yes.
So where all these agencies of security are there. So it is not fair to just pick on and say, come and talk on Melaye's matter to us. Even though he is Inspector General, he might not be within the vicinity where that incident happened. He too is not going to speak from his inner knowledge. He's going to rely on what people tell him about the incident. And you know, in law, that amounts to hearsay. In law, hearsay evidence is no evidence. So, if you really want to know the truth about this thing, if you tell the Inspector General, look, we want to interview on this, then he now will go and find the officers and tell them, okay, come and brief me on this thing. And you have to follow me when I'm going. So it becomes a real official this thing. But let's be honest, it's too small a matter for the National Assembly to call the Inspector General to come.
I agree, sir, but does he have that discretion to say, I'm not
That's
coming?
what I'm telling you. If the matter is not within his knowledge, and you can't go and talk to you, it has to be cleared by a superior officer, who is the minister. Then the question arises, to whom does the National Assembly send an invitation?
Aha!
That is the question now.
There you go.
Let me give you an example. If you are a tenant in a house and your landlord wants to quit you, and he just comes to your house, they say, this is not at home. When the law says service to you must be personal, and then he goes and gives maybe your son or your daughter and say, when your papa comes, give him this letter. You see, that is not what we call proper service. And that is why we say, in everything we do in a democracy, we must follow due process. So even if they have the power, if they have the right, they have not followed due process.
But does he also have the discretion to send a representative? Because the part of their argument, or part of the argument, is that it was the Inspector General that was invited, not the man in his person, and that therefore, by the police rules, a DIG can stand in for him. And he sent a DIG that he's busy. Does he have that discussion?
You ask yourself.
Yes, sir.
What is the intention behind the calling? The intention is clear, is to know the truth. The Bible says, if you know the truth, everything you shall be whole. When you know the truth does not lie with the IG. The truth lies not even with the commissioner of police. Lies within a DPO or an assistant commissioner. Who can explain better? Why are you asking the Inspector General to come?
Why don't they just ask Dino?
No.
He's their man.
They should have just asked IGP, please. We are investigating so much. Could you send us an officer who is seized of the facts of this case so that we can know the truth? You cannot ask the Minister of Finance to come now about taxation, and then you ask Customs this thing, who is under the minister, to come and talk to them on taxation. No.
But, sorry, sir, there's one thing I want to get clear in my mind. Do they act, because Dino is wanted in the suspected criminal case. That is right, sir.
Yes.
Now, their interference because of the association with him, is it allowed under the law? Are they allowed to interfere in this process?
You mean the National Assembly?
Yes.
They don't have the power, they don't have the right, and they should be ashamed of themselves, because one of the most important thing National Assembly likes to arrogate to themselves is that they only have the power to do this. Nobody can share that power with them. What they are doing, they are saying that because you have intimidated or you have done something to my colleague, I want to know why you behaved that way. Is that colleague doing anything in the course of his duty as a member of the National Assembly? If he were doing, for instance, if he was doing his oversight functions and he was going to perform that oversight function on behalf of the House, then anything that happens to him, they might ask you to go and, because at that stage, he's going with the command of the National Assembly. But he was going on a frolic of his own. All what they are saying is that you did not go there when you are committing this offense, not as a member of the National Assembly, not as a senator, but as an individual. And we are holding you as an individual. So it doesn't concern the National Assembly.
Well, aren't we going to? Don't we also take into cognizance the fact that this gentleman had been invited in the first instance? He they couldn't get him. Now they supposedly got a warrant to arrest him, but the Senate president is reported to have provided an escape route for him in his car when he was going to be arrested at some funeral of a Kogi politician. Some vigilante stopped them from arresting him, and I believe in that sense he brought a lot of this on himself. There was a time he surrounded his house with the people from the IDP camp and so on and so forth. Therefore, you have a history of a man who, in the very first instance, had not been cooperating with the police. And here we are, the case involves him being accused. They say that these boys who were caught in the robbery claimed that he was the one who gave them, one or two of them, guns to do so. Somewhere in the background lies the fact that a lot of us suspect that in any case, politicians always arm these boys. They might not arm them to go and commit robbery, but they do arm them, for protection and whatever. And Dino, ironically, was not the only senator that was called under such a circumstance. Shehu Sani was invited. He went straight to the police station the next morning. He was granted bail in self-recognizance, and he was allowed to go. And I am sure he will find a way to solve the problem. To my mind, I think that this gentleman brought a lot of this on himself. And the way the National Assembly is handling it, they have presumed that he's even innocent before facing the court of law.
I am not holding brief for Melaye, but it is not fair to accuse him, as the generality of people are saying, without facts. I've already told you that we lawyers, facts are very sacred to us. All what you are telling me here are hearsay evidence, which we don't allow to infiltrate into law practice or into law evidence, because you need the person who told you to come forward and say it himself. You know,
one of the robbers was said.
As I said, I don't want to believe it.
Okay.
But what I want to say is that he cannot claim that when he was invited, at least it was carried in the air.
Yes.
The radios carried it, the television carried it, and he must have heard. So as a decent senator, as a decent Nigerian, after hearing that the police wanted him, he should have gone straight there on his own without being forced. So to that extent, it was very, very wrong. And I will blame him for that.
Now, you also know that in taking him to court, the police were forced at some point to take him in a stretcher, because I think he claimed he wasn't feeling too good and so on and so forth. So eventually he had to be brought in court in a stretcher. But a lot of your colleagues are crying foul that no accused person should be brought under that kind of circumstance. That it's against the human rights, whatever, of the accused person to be brought in a stretcher.
Well, there are always...
We also know that people who cannot walk are brought in wheelchairs anyway. So, personally, I'm given the circumstance of this case, I don't believe, because what if he perpetually stays on the stretcher?
I don't accept lawyers who just criticize the way and manner because it involves one particular person or not. Here in Abuja, I think it's the former chairman of PDP who was brought in from the hospital to in Abuja here, facing the trial, and was brought in a wheelchair.
Oh, the PRO?
Not the PRO.
The
former chairman and former minister, whose son was killed by the wife. He was brought in a wheelchair and from the ambulance. So this is not the first time an accused person. Our good friend, the publicity secretary, he also was brought in a stretcher, all his neck and this thing. So if he cannot be put in a wheelchair, then they'll put him in a stretcher. There is nothing wrong in that, and we should not make a big deal about that.
Well, I mean, even if we give examples that it has happened before, I'd just like to know if it makes it right. What's the best international practice?
Look, it depends. You see, appearance in court is the discretion of the judge.
I see.
You say the judge says, in the name of the state, you are invited to this court. The way and manner you come, if you cannot come as a healthy person, your lawyer will make a submission on your behalf. Oh, my client is not feeling well, he cannot walk. You have to inform the court. The court will now, in its discretion, based on the facts before it, now make a statement. The court may say, dead or alive, I want him
here.
The court will say, okay, let us give him 2 weeks. Where's the medical report? They'll call the doctor. How many weeks do you think your client can, stay at home? 2 weeks, okay. They will adjourn. So all depends on the discretion of the judge. But it is nothing you don't see. It happens always in many cases.
Because, I mean, some of including some SANs also. By the way, again, the issue of SANship came up again, I think, last week when I had a guest, and he Muyiwa Shobok, and he believes that the SAN title should be scrapped. I don't know how we'll be calling you Mr. Robert Clark and not put SEN at the back of it.
Well, maybe because of my background. I was a trade unionist for 15 years before I went into... So I'm a comrade. So okay. I prefer that comradeship rather than the SEN. But the hook does not make the monk. So whether you remove SEN-ship from my name, if I'm a good lawyer, people will buy me. If I'm a bad lawyer and they chase me once, they'll throw me away. But let us look at one thing. In every profession you have today in the world, the profession has to distinguish on merit those who are good and those who are not good amongst themselves.
On merit.
On merit. Take the academics. When you enter, you are a lecturer. After that, you become a research something. After that, you become an associate professor. And you become a professor. That is the elite of the profession. And if you want to consult a doctor, you have Professor Robert Clark. Oh, yeah. Your first choice will be that. Because you know that word professor is backed up by years of experience. The same thing if you are in the police force. There is a sergeant, there is a corporal, then there is inspector general. So there is an elite group in every profession you have in the world. So what is wrong in lawyers having junior counsel, senior counsel, senior advocates? What is wrong in it?
Well, I think principally a lot of people feel that way because they believe the process itself that produces the SEN has been abused in recent times.
You have just hit the hammer at the head. And that has been my own view too. And we've been struggling for that. And now, maybe the lawyer who was criticizing it does not know that starting from this year, a new process has been developed by the Privileges Committee, whereby the standard required to be an SEN has been so graded now that Tom, Dick, and Harry just don't go to a senior advocate's chamber, borrow one case in the Supreme Court or Court of Appeal, and has an uncle or something who can push it forward. Now, every case you do from the lower court, Court of Appeal, Supreme Court, must be one started by you, not borrowed. So there are many flaws before, and these flaws have been... So I am of the view that whether you like it or not, a profession must know those who are its masters. And in the law profession, even as you said, the way and manner most of us were appointed does not tell us that we are the best.
And there may be some of the privileges that you get too. Because I hear that if anytime a senior advocate walks into the court, his case must be heard almost immediately.
No.
Is that not
you see, to be honest again, that is an area I do not... We are allowed, the privilege we enjoy is not when you have a matter slated down for trial. The privilege you have is if it's a motion day and you have a motion.
Okay.
And a motion is an interlocutory application, not the trial. But in a trial date, I do not subscribe to a senior advocate coming when his case is just 2016, and there's a junior lawyer whose case has been 2011, and then because then they say, okay, no, I agree with many of the young lawyers, and I don't subscribe to it. But when there are interlocutory applications, because we sit in the inner bar, we are called members of the inner bar. So we are nearer the judges.
So if the judge is going to be short, you are the one who...
So the judges are facing time, but I'm just joking about that.
I know.
But let's be honest. I don't subscribe to a case of a senior advocate being called for trial when his case is just 2-3 months. And that's the problem too we're having in the Supreme Court today and the Court of Appeal. Appeals to the 80% of the appeals that go to the Supreme Court of Appeal today are political cases. And they are the cases, throwing back normal cases, 2008, 2010. They've not been heard today in the Supreme Court. Whereas all these politicians, from High Court to Supreme Court, within 6 months, they've had the Supreme Court. So they are just giving themselves all this.
What speeds up that process for them, sir? If I may ask.
What
speeds up the process for the politicians?
No. When government itself and the CG has directed that all election cases must be carried out speedily, must be given. That's what you find.
Why don't we have
within
a separate
the past 4 years
political things?
Within the past 4 years,
yes, sir.
Supreme Court, whatever cases they have dealt with, 80% of them have been political cases. So you see where we are going. You see where we are going. January this year, 2018, I just handled a 2008 judgment was delivered in a case I filed in the Supreme Court in 2008. This January.
That's 10 years.
10 years. Whereas so many cases on gubernatorial this, senatorial this, House of Reps this, everything. And that's the confusion we have in the country. Let us listen to ourselves and see where we are going. We are going nowhere in this country. Every area of this country is being thrown asunder. You are a farmer, or you are somebody who got a loan from a bank. The loan has sold the bank has sold your house. You appeal to the Supreme Court. You are waiting for 10 years to get a judgment. Whereas somebody who is contesting election for Senate House, within 3 months, first court has had it, Court of Appeal has had it, Supreme Court is hearing it. They say because of a time element. You see where we are going. And that's why many of us are asking for a constitutional court. So that all these cases of these politicians don't hamper the true movement of normal cases.
But you see, even if you did have constitutional court, you're still going to end up in the Supreme Court anyway.
No. Constitutional court will end in constitutional court. During Abacha's time, it was being, pushed forward. I remember my very good friend, late Justice Mudafa, was being slated to be the first president of that presidential court in 1995 or 96.
Okay, we need to take a break now because I need to run a commercial.
That's your live wire.
That's live wire, yeah, that's and I must not forget. So, this is still the Discourse with Jimi Disu, brought to you by MTN, and you're still on Classic FM 97.3. I need to earn my pay. I'm going to take a break. When I come back, we'll start taking some of your responses, messages, and whatever. Let me quickly read out what you can do to get a response read. You can send an SMS to 33973. An SMS to 33973. The Twitter page, the Twitter handle is @ClassicFM973. And please add Jimi Disu there so I can read it on my phone. Okay, Instagram page is @ClassicFM973. Facebook page is facebook.com/ClassicFM97.3. And then of course, the website, classic97.net. Now the phones are 0909 217 2973, and that's for WhatsApp, and is also the studio line. Let me repeat the number again: 0909 217 2973. You can send WhatsApp messages to them, and the studio line is 0700 1000. I repeat, 0700 973. So we'll take a short break and then we'll be right back.
So, what did you do when you got your first bike?
I rode it to all my friends' houses in one day.
When you got your first sunglasses?
Whoa, I was so excited I wore it even at night.
And your first wristwatch?
Awesome! I swam with it and wore it to sleep every night for 7 good days.
And now that you're in secondary school, what will you do when you get your first smartphone?
Yay! The whole world will hear me scream.
This season, surprise your child with an MTN smartphone for as low as 13,000 Naira with a 3-month data bonus offer. Available at all designated MTN stores nationwide.
Everywhere you go, MTN. Time don't reach to chop life with ogbonge bonus from MTN. Just find out your own MTN SIM card where you never use for the past 45 days or more. Load 100 naira to get 2,000 naira. Check am and begin use am. If you no fit find your SIM, sharply go any MTN office to do SIM swap and enjoy your own awoof. Terms and conditions dey sound.
You're listening to The Discourse with Jimi Disu, brought to you by MTN.
Welcome back to The Discourse with Jimi Disu, brought to you by MTN. And this is Classic FM 97.3, and I still have Chief Robert Clark, SAN. Let me read some of the tweets that I have. Your tweet has become a quote, sir. Yeah. One gentleman called Mischief Maker says that we are going nowhere in this country. Chief Robert Clark, SAN, on The Discourse with Jimi Disu. Another one says, Ifeoma Adigu says, Jimi Disu, your biases are showing. No matter how distasteful the senator may be, it looks like you have tried and convicted him already. Please try to be more objective. I didn't give my opinion on... I didn't. These things do happen. Femi Adegbemile says that having claimed of being tear gas, a close look at that footage reveals that Dino spoke coherently without any form of gasp whatsoever. Did he cook just to get himself off the hook? He goes on to say, summoning the IGP was nothing but an afterthought, all in a bid to cheapen state of security when we all know they were all allowed to take their pound of flesh on Dino's behalf. Adejide Adekunle says that, please ask Chief Clark if it is constitutionally right for the president not to disclose the true nature of his health status despite using our money for the overseas treatment. He's talking about the president's...
his health, the amount of money spent or what?
If it is for the president not to disclose the true nature of his health.
Why should he?
But they claim that he's using our money.
Look, there are the law of privacy, which allows you as an individual to keep private, even if you don't want to. Your doctor also owes it a duty under the under the law to keep private. Like even lawyers also, what we discuss with our clients are privileged. So it's not fair for anybody to want to know what is wrong. If he's incapable of performing his duties at that stage, then we need to know what makes it impossible for him. But if he's not well and he's gone to see his doctor, whether it's pneumonia, whether it's prostrate, whether it's not for you and I to start looking into. Was it not Pompidou, the French president, for 14 years was president of France, and he has carried prostate cancer for 14 years. But because nobody knew, and it never hampered him. So it's not a good argument to say, Mr.
Because
President,
we pay for, yes.
Once he can see well and he can walk well, even in America, the man who could not walk, Roosevelt, he was on wheelchair and he was performing his duties. So we should look for other reasons to talk about Mr. President, not to...
But talking about Mr. President, sir, he has indicated clearly that he's going to run for a second term. What does that mean to you as an individual?
Well,
I'm throwing you under the bus.
You want to drag me into an area that you almost know what I'm going to say. And if I say it, you want to drag me again into an area for me to make another statement on it.
Well, let's see how it goes.
Buhari, I have known him, okay, let me be honest, when he was a major. My partner, Yunus Sapaiko, and him were both working in he was the chairman of NNPC. My partner was the secretary and legal advisor. So that relationship I grew to. And I know he's somebody who is noted for hard work. And he's somebody who will not hide his feelings if his health permits. But at 70, I think I'm about 4 years older than him now, I think so.
Would that make him 76?
Yes, I'm 80 now.
Yeah, 80.
Uh-huh.
Don't forget my invitation for.
Oh, yeah, I told you I'll let you.
That's on the settle. But is he 76 on paper?
Not on paper.
He's 76 really?
Yeah. You see, let me tell you, if you want to know the age of parents in the North, like if you want to know my mother's age now, when we were young, you will take the eldest child's age in the family, add 16 on top of it, and add 1 for the pregnancy period. You get the age of your mother. So if a man is 76 today, and if the mother was still alive, you only need to add 60 years to that 76 plus 1, giving you 93. Yeah, you know, because that is the age young girls get married in the North. So you can easily know one's age. So if he wants to contest, or if he does not want to contest, he is the only person together with his wife. Because at this age,
the wife is in the other room.
No. The wife has to be called for an opinion. Because she knows her husband more than you and I. If it's somebody who is lazy and waking up in the morning and says, when are you going to a campaign? When I'm not ready to be waking you, she will start that area and tell you that, look, don't waste your time. So, but if he feels health-wise, that he can go through, because we have seen our good friend Obasanjo and Yar'Adua, when he was the one doing all the campaign for Yar'Adua. And even during the course of the campaign, Yar'Adua, they said, you are dead, though.
Are you dead?
Are you dead? We don't want such a situation in Nigeria again. So if it's going to be another Yar'Adua, let him sit down. His body will tell him the correct language and tell people that, look, I can't go for a second term. But if he feels...
What do you feel?
I have not seen him for about 5 years now. I have not seen him, to talk to him even. Although I have friends also who are mutual friends who talk to. But so I cannot determine his health. It's just like I sitting in front of you now. Can you determine my health?
Uncle Rabi, I can determine. I know what you can be up to.
I have a friend. The body talks to you. The body language talks to you.
Yes.
So it is him who will decide. But if you feel he doesn't look well, as many people are saying, Kilo Tunfe, what does he want again? But we have seen those who have done there before. Kilo Tunfe, they are back again. So,
but the past 4 years, are you happy with what he has done so far?
Look, I am not a politician.
I know.
And when I speak objectively.
Yes.
Buhari may not have got some passes in other areas. But let me say this frankly, speaking from the bottom of my heart. If we had another leader outside Buhari within the last 4 years, this country will have gone to ruins. Do you know now? Okay, let me put it this way. Obasanjo did a very good thing for Nigeria in 2003 when he created what we call the Excess Crude Fund. Immediately created the Excess Crude Fund. 2004 election came. All the governors started breathing on its neck. They want money for campaign. The money should be released. He did not. The gang in the Nile did not allow him to contest 2004 election. Why? They said under the PDP's manifesto, a president must win his state, and Obasanjo did not win Ogun State. In 2004, the greatest massive polling rigging in Nigeria happened in this country. That today the Americans have not forgiven Obasanjo for that rigging. Where all the AD governors, overnight they just found there were no more governors. They could not even go. They could not go to contest. Obasanjo did the greatest rigging, and PDP took over governance. You see what I mean?
Yes.
And what will I, what were you asking me now?
I was not saying. I was saying. I'm almost forgotten now. That I was talking about his performance.
And
you spoke
that
about
is one thing.
The trust fund that Obasanjo set up.
Okay. they started taking money from that trust fund. When Obasanjo was leaving governance, he left about 30-something billion in the trust fund.
Dollars
In the excess crude trust fund.
Crude trust fund, yes.
When Buhari took over, barely was there $4 billion.
That is not all.
Now, Obasanjo also, to his credit, left almost 40-something billion Nigerian reserve fund. Our reserve. Despite and in spite of the fact that he had paid 30-something million to the Paris Club to clear our...
Yes.
He did a fantastic job. Whatever anybody wants to say about Obasanjo, he cleared our Paris fund and he left. By the time Buhari took on, I don't think we had up to 11 billion in our reserve. But today, you were hearing it, was it not last week? We now have about 50 billion. This is something nobody has been looking that angle. Where did we get at such a low, and now that the price of oil is coming up, you can see what is going to happen. Secondly, the ability to garner funds overseas. No country in this world can develop. Take Malaysia. Take Singapore. We got independence almost virtually at the same time. We were better than these two countries in terms of natural resources. Even Malaysia came here to come and take our palm or something. Because of external investment by foreigners, Singapore today, I think, is maybe number 6, 7 in the world. Malaysia today, go there, you think you are in Paris and die. Look at us, Nigeria. We are retrogressing. We are retrogressing.
And so don't we also hold...
Now, you look at our period of these 4 years, what has happened to us. During the present presidency, we have now had inflow of finance coming in. At times, an economist will tell you it's better to borrow to build than to go sweating out. The Chinese did it saved them. The Indians did it, they looked inwards. But in developing countries today, it is investment that brings you out of poverty. Now, we are taking, is it not 33 billion or something from the Chinese now? Cash loan, cash, dollar. Cash. And many of the infrastructure are there immediately to start upon. And Amechi was saying it, Fashola was saying it, that all this money for this investment are from this Chinese cash loan. So we need the investment. And how are we able to get it? Because people believe outside Nigeria that Nigeria is the most corrupt country in the world. But with the advent of Buhari, that toga has been removed.
Do you think we deserve that the toga be removed? Yeah, in the legal system.
Yeah.
I mean, how would you rate the war on corruption?
Well, look, every area of life in Nigeria is corrupt. Every area. Starting from the presidency, even with Buhari as the apex there are people surrounding him today that are as worse as corrupt as anybody. Corruption cannot be eradicated in Nigeria for the next 10 years. Except you want to go the Rollins way. Or don't say If you are ready, you have an alternative. The voice of the people is the voice of God.
Really?
Oh, yes. But we have to start somewhere.
Has it got to that frustrating level?
It has. Every area. For me to file papers, if I ask my litigation clerk, go and file, the man will say, look, I want 1,000 naira for me to carry motorcycle. If not, they'll put this thing there. If you want a certified true copy of a judgment, if you don't put a gunja on top, it will be there. Look, that is the area I know of where my own work. Everywhere. Look, if you give a Nigerian man 100,000 to work for you, he will not be as happy as giving him a uniform that will allow him to be going around the street and say 20,000 a month, but wear this uniform. That uniform alone gives him power to extort money out.
Yeah.
You know it.
Uncle Robbie, we have a caller.
Yeah.
Hello, good afternoon. Hello? 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 Okay, all right, we'll try it again. Before I forget, sir, you know there's this, I don't know if you took cognizance of the alarm that Saraki...
Hello?
Hello, yes?
Good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon.
My name is Dago. My question is to Mr. Clark.
Yes.
Regarding the issue of all cases going to the Supreme Court, why can't we model the American system where only fewer cases go to the Supreme Court and most cases end at the appellate court?
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. You heard what he said? He said, why don't you adopt the American model?
Of what?
Of dispensation of justice, where constitutional cases end at the appeal court or something like that, something close to that.
No. You see, the American system federation is different from the federation we have in Nigeria. Nigeria is not a federation known to, actual practice. The Americans were a group of countries that were already independent before they decided to be coming together. So each state had the paraphernalia of governance right from its own Supreme Court to the lower court. So any state law will go from their own state, first High Court, Court of Appeal, and then their own Supreme Court there. But any federal law now, any infringement of federal law, will go to the Supreme Court. And between you and I really think whether the Supreme Court of America handles up to 20 cases a year. Because they really don't go there. There's no basis for it. And that's why I was saying that we should cut our constitution in a way where we now have a constitutional court as the apex court for political matters and constitutional matters. Then, we can be dreaming of less corruption and all that. To get to the American way, my friend, it's going to be difficult.
Almost impossible, actually.
No, not impossible if you have the money.
I said almost.
But let's build our resources first. I was talking about building resources.
Okay. And we have another caller. Hello, good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Naga. How are you?
Yeah. Happy Sunday to you.
Hi, you too, my brother. How are you doing?
Yeah. My name is Kola. I want to ask that one question.
Yes.
Sorry, sir.
Yeah.
Concerning this senator that was the police was molested. What happens if it is ordinary man? Will the Senate, the House, ask the Commissioner of Police to come and explain? Is it because it's one of their colleagues? That's why they are now saying the Commissioner of Police should come, or the IG.
You see, my brother, you are worse than even the members of the House of the... Take Okada riders, for instance. If a car knocks an Okada rider in front of the studio here now, every Okada rider will just start parking and surrounding the place. So you are fighting for your brother. And before you know what is happening, the streets will have been taken over by Okada riders. So it's the same thing. They are trying to fight for members. So is there anything wrong in fighting for... But I don't agree with it. I agree with you that if it was you or I, nobody will fight for us that way. I agree with you.
Okay, sir. Just before that caller, I was going to talk about the alarm that the Senate President raised, where he said that it looks as if it was going to be set up. I don't know if you heard of it. In a case of some suspects, again,
along with the governor
of Kwara, and then the Senate met and then decided to send few of their colleagues to meet the president. And I'm saying that what was that supposed to achieve? Is the president supposed to interfere in whatever investigation the police are carrying out? So I'd like your opinion on that, sir.
You see, You like to drag me into politics.
What kind of an be?
You like to drag me into
politics. I have no choice.
And when I go into politics and I say the truth,
yes,
the politicians start hating me. When I'm on board the plane now, they see me, they will laugh over, they'll say, look, you wire us too much. Because how can the president of the Senate,
yes,
when he knows he's involved in a matter with the police, be now taking it to the highest man in the country, which you and I, we don't have the opportunity. That's what this last caller was saying now. That if it were him, will the Malay, will the police or do treat him or that? You see, it is not fair for us in Nigeria to use our positions in a way and manner that will send a wrong signal. What Saraki is doing today, with due respect to him, is sending a wrong signal. And this is not the first wrong signal. When going to court to answer to his charges, you see Saraki going with 2 armed policemen in uniform, with guns, with the coat of arms of Nigeria, following him to court to go and defend a criminal charge. Abba. Where are we going? What signal is he sending? When you are being charged to court as the president of the Senate, you go on in your own small car with maybe your son or your daughter. You walk into the court. But these are people, half of the Senate are not going to walk that.
Yes, you followed him.
The same thing is going to happen here now, and that's what it's not fair to this country, and they should talk to these people. They are sending a bad signal, very bad signal.
You know that even in Dino's case, they just closed for the day and all headed to the intensive care unit, which of course cannot take more than 10 persons. The rest stood outside.
They're sending a wrong message.
But I am sure that in the how many years that we've been practicing democracy now, after this last military government, this will probably be the worst National Assembly that we've had. I'm sure about that.
I've told people we are not practicing democracy. Since 1999, that Obasanjo took over the first leg button of this so-called democracy. What we have been doing since 1999 is a civilian government. A civilian government is different from a democracy. A civilian government is just like a military government. When the man on top, dictates, and, the others below do whatever they do to us. Democracy has institutions. It is the institutions of democracy that make you and I believe we're in a democratic society. I've just told you what is happening in America, where the president of America today appointed a lawyer, a special counsel, was appointed on his behalf by the Attorney General, and is trying to prosecute him, and is prosecuting people. Can you hear that in Nigeria? Can you? No, and that is true democracy, because the system of governance, the police is independent, FBI is independent, the Attorney General is independent of who appointed him. But here in Nigeria, if you appoint, somebody was asking me about appointment of judges. I said we have to review how we appoint judges, because it's the politicians who appoint them at the end of the day. The president appoints the CJ and Supreme Court judges and Court of Appeal judges. The governor appoints the judges, the CJ in the state. So we have to change many systems of governance.
A question on a technicality that I need to quickly clear with you, sir. Justice Zunguta of the Supreme Court was discharged and acquitted on a technical...
I won the case in the Court of Appeal.
You won the case for him?
Look, what happened is this. 4 of them were arrested. I represented Justice Ademola.
Yes.
I got him free, not on technicalities.
Okay.
Ganjima, then there's another federal high court judge. I declared that the Lagos High Court has no jurisdiction. They said they had. We went to Court of Appeal. And the Court of Appeal says, until all the process as listed in the Constitution, the due process is followed, no court of law can just go and take a judge from his chambers and say you are charging.
That they should have gone through the NJC.
So Unguta was one of those who was arraigned on the same this thing. So he now used that case that I won in the Court of Appeal to stop his own trial, and they agreed with him.
So what should the NJC now go and do the proper thing, or he can? That's the end of the
EFCC has appealed to the Supreme Court.
Okay.
I've started writing my brief now. They have written their own brief, challenging that judgment, believing that it was wrong. But I can assure you that judgment is infallible,
Well, should they win in the Supreme Court, can the NJC now do the proper thing?
They can.
They can.
You know what is happening now?
Yes.
As soon as I won those two cases, there is one I'm doing now that I've almost finished, Justice Ajumogobia.
Okay.
I will soon finish that one, and by the grace of God, I will win that one. Two of them now, EFCC has written to NJC the same charges that I got them free there. They have now said they should look into the charges, and that is being done.
I see.
So if they are found guilty, then they will now recommend to Mr. President and says, look, our inside job, which the Constitution says we should do about our peers, judges, we have done it. We find them guilty. We return them to you, derobe them because they are still judges, so that they can now be charged by the ordinary, process. That's what I fought for.
That's what you fought for.
Oh yeah, and I'm happy I won it. It's due process.
But it doesn't necessarily mean that is the end of it.
They have not looked into the charges. If they look at it and you have to say, oh, you are guilty. Okay.
You don't know anything about the charges?
No, for one, he has been freed before. There's double jeopardy for him now.
Okay.
But I know the others will go through that same route.
Uncle Robbie, time. That's it.
Well,
by the time I'm with you, time does. There's a conspiracy of time.
Well, maybe if you have good backers, MTN that is backing you, extend it for 2 hours for you, and then you think of looking after an old man like me, you pay me well to bring me here. Then we can extend it for
Don't
2
worry,
hours.
the 80th I'm going to give you, you won't believe it. It's not a house or a car. It's something you will like. Wrapped up.
Don't tell me what you know I like.
I know what you like. I've known you all my life.
I don't need those things again. What I pray to God for, give me this day my daily bread. And he has been doing that for me. Right,
thank you very much.
It's always my pleasure to be here.
Thank you very much, Uncle Robbie.
Jimmy, it's always my pleasure.
So that's where we landed today. Time is not on our side. I'd like to thank Kazim for standing in here today. Kazim, thank you very, very much. Taking you from your usual schedule. So don't forget, Monday to Friday next week, 7 o'clock is Front Page News, 9 o'clock is Lagos Talks. Like I said, this APC matter will be looked at. Ogala comes in on Wednesday. Fuadoki comes in on Thursday. On Friday, I got a very seasoned party planner she'll give us a comprehensive, her name is Mrs. Funke Kuyoro. She'll do a comprehensive review of the Diana wedding, looking at it but I will also chip in from my own side. It was a beauty to behold, though there were a few sad moments when one had to reach for his handkerchief and clean the side of his eyes. I'm sure you watched the program, sir.
I watch it right.
Now, very quickly, let me just take 2-3 minutes. You can see how you find that the royalty in those countries want to get closer to the people. Ours want to get further away from the people. It was so simple. Look at the way the bride, the groom, and the best man walked all the way down. If he was here, the rolls would almost have to park inside the car. Look at the car the lady came in. It's almost like a 50, 60-year-old car. Imagine some of your friends who are very, very rich, if their children were going to get married.
I don't have rich friends.
I don't want to mention that. Anyway, so that's what we are going to have. Thank you very much for listening. God willing, I'll be back here again next week.
God bless you for me.
Thank you, sir.
So, what did you do when you got your first bike?
I rode it to all my friends' houses in one day.
When you got your first sunglasses?
Whoa, I was so excited I wore it even at night.
And your first wristwatch?
Awesome! I swam with it and wore it to sleep every night for 7 good days.
And now that you're in secondary school, what will you do when you get your first smartphone?
Yay! The whole world will hear me scream?
This season, surprise your child with an MTN smartphone for as low as 13,000 naira with a 3-month data bonus offer. Available at all designated MTN stores nationwide.
Everywhere you go, MTN.
Time don't reach to chop life with Ogbonge bonus from MTN. Just find that your own MTN SIM card where you never use for the past 45 days or more. Load 100 naira to get 2,000 naira. Chakam and begin use am. If you no fit find your SIM, sharply go any MTN office to do SIM swap and enjoy your own awoof. Terms and